Welcome to the Job Scam Report podcast on HireClick. The data storage company stores employment data from resumes. This was recently discovered, not when it happened in February 2025. And so recently, in the last 4 days, Cyber News have reported this break-in, this cyber attack happened, and it exposed information. And it exposed about 5.7 million resumes exposed to scammers who can use data for various cyber crimes. So if you apply to a company like Taco Bell, Hyatt, and others involved, and I didn't get the whole list, but some of these companies are, which you've known, and they're not just the retail aspect, but also the corporate aspect where people applied and used resumes and information was exposed. Not to say whether it was a theft or not. It's interesting. After having read a bunch of these over the past year, they'll say information was exposed, but it won't say information was taken because you just don't know. And I guess there's no way of knowing. But they do know there was a break in cyber language, so to speak. Many or who knew outside of HireClick about the attack, we don't know because it wasn't public until just recently. So we don't know if it was kept secret. We don't know if it's been part of behind the scenes been going on trying to fix and trying to figure out whether it was a break-in or not. We just know, again, it was a cyber attack. Applicants who submitted their resumes, their information was exposed. And with their resume, a lot of people have done it the old way, where they put their home address as well as their full name, their home phone number. They may even put two numbers on there. They may put a landline and a cell phone number on there. They may put their personal email address instead of using one specifically for the job search. But when you talk about resume storage, people who are putting their life's asset on a document, trusting a company to store it, it just becomes crazy about how much vulnerability there actually is. Some people are smart enough to mask their name with phone number and email address specifically for their job search with their Google Voice, all Gmail address just for their job search. Really the smart way to do it. There's no need to put the exact home address. Maybe you'll need to put the city in so the employer will know where you are locally. You could travel to the job because most jobs are still at least hybrid and not completely remote. Unfortunately, many users include their information, like we talked about, on their address. And leaked data could lead some job seekers, maybe more than others, to identify or to identity theft and impersonation phishing campaigns and doxing, which is saying somebody could take information and put it out there on the web and maybe even bribe the actual user into giving up more data or some assets or money or what have you. And doxing, again, is the action or process of searching for and phishing private and identifying information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. So those are the facts of the cases we know right now. Many layers actually can go into what this could all mean. But if you can imagine, if you've given a resume and you've given a resume to Taco Bell or Hyatt through their site, where data is actually being eventually with information will be stored through HireClick, the companies could raise all kinds of noise about this because it's people set out the application to trust the company and their reputation to don't want texts and they don't want special offers, newsletter updates. Some maybe they do sign up and think it's going to influence the hiring process. We know it really doesn't, but maybe they are interested in the company even for future reference. But having said, people are trusting the company, not the data storage company, to keep their information safe. So if I give it to Hyatt, I expect Hyatt to be responsible. So it's going to bring up some different kind of scenarios, if you will. And we're going to see how much they really care. And one issue I have concern about, and I've said this over the past year, I'm concerned companies are not giving people the options to have how they want the information being used. Because if I were applying to a job, I'm hoping maybe if I'm applying to a job online if I have to. And I send you my resume. You're using it just for the employment situation. And perhaps you're going to destroy it, disregard it, not just disregard it at the end of it. But if you are going to use some form like selling it to a third party data brokerage, which many and most of them do, especially big companies, you're going to keep it safe and you're going to keep it from being exposed to scammers. And the saying, guys, you have one job. I expect you to keep my information safe and just use it for the purposes I applied to the job, which didn't happen in this case. And in fact, to worse it matters, we're just finding out about something that happened 3 months ago. So already there's going to be this distrust and there should be some outrage in regarding. How many of us here there's a privacy disclosure at the front of the application or an online form where you have to fill out information other than your resume, you may be given more than once. So yes, there are companies that actually do. They tell you exactly how they're going to use the information. They may not even give you the option, but they're telling you what it is. Halfway there, really, what we should all want for every application you fill out is I want my information to be discarded and destroyed and deleted once you decided you're not going to hire me, at least for a certain time. Let's say I applied in February and in May you've closed the position out, then you've moved on and we don't get feedback as an applicant or somebody who sent in the resume, then information should be destroyed. And I understand not how business works, but it should be something to stop all the data leaks as bad as they are. 5.7 million resumes is a lot of data to be exposed. So we can almost assume that these data leakages happen with different companies. Don't forget, and I talked about this in another episode of podcast where resume looters last winter, if I'm not mistaken, they had a data leak and there were a couple of million resumes were exposed. And we didn't hear too much about, well, more than likely, again, exposure doesn't mean necessarily it was stolen, but in our minds, the way the job scams are beginning to become so prevalent, we can only assume they are stolen assets of ours. And I'm saying ours is just saying job seeker nation, the general public who applies to jobs and send in resumes to a company to expect them to just use it for employment. How many of us really care? Companies are using this and they're profiting from it, even when it's at to the cost of our exposing ourselves to data leakages and having privacy. One's going to argue they were most companies, most data isn't leaked, but most data is sold. So job seekers have to take responsibility and make sure the place of employment we're seeking from, they're getting just enough information for them to get back to us and for them to make a decision whether we're going to be the right candidate. Like I said, putting the city down is better. You don't have to put a home address anymore. A lot of people do. People put two numbers and just putting the one, and you can even mask the number because I think if you're using your real number and there's an exposure, you also open yourself to possibly a Zelle or a Cash App problem somewhere down the line. I don't know. We hope they keep information as like a bank would. Banks have done great for the most part, but they have data leakages too. But they seem to be doing a little bit better than employment companies and data storage companies that are getting breached. When you think about it, even LastPassword, if you remember over a year ago, they had a data breach and their security company, even though they store data, exposed data. So really it's almost, we can't trust anyone. Job seekers and everyone else will need to be responsible for how they're going to have their information put out there to get employed in the future or to get credit or to do whatever it is. Again, just to give a bottom line to all of this, and there's a lot of questions I wish we could unwrap and have time to do, but all of this has come down to is what are the dangers of a leak And what you can do about it, one, attackers can easily craft convincing phishing emails, SMS scams or text scams, or impersonate recruiters, hiring managers, even people who refer, as we've learned over the past year or so. Job seekers may be lured into sharing sensitive documents such as ID scans, social security numbers, or banking information under the pretense of job verification or setting up direct deposit. You just kind of wonder if something needs to be regulated by the government or by an entity that's going to make sure only those standards and those minimal standards are going to be met. Right now, don't see a way it's going to happen, but could be a real thing if the data leakages are equating to what we're all experiencing now, maybe 2 or 3 times as worse because of data leakages. Scammers could use the resumes to create fake identities or exploit employment verification systems, which we've talked about in other past episodes of the podcast. I think we're going to need to, again, take some responsibility to make sure we're masking or giving kind of secondhand information so they don't have direct information, but we could still be contacted. The leak also enables doxing, where personal data is exposed online to harass or intimidate individuals. And already, scammers have quite a bit of information already, because just think about it. Information, as companies have sold information to third-party individuals and third-party companies for many years now. So all these leaks are leaked somewhere, and scammers are able to search for and find almost instantaneously. You have profile of you so they can impersonate you if they have enough information, enough vital information for them to become you. And again, it could affect your credit, your ability to buy a house, your ability to buy cars, have certain bank accounts, and so on. And really just overall safety. I want to know how you guys feel about it. I want to know how you guys are you guys taking precautions in any way. I've covered a number of times in other episodes, so you could check out. I'll probably attach to 1 or 2 if you go to the YouTube videos and to the videos in other places. I hope you guys have a great day and a great evening. As some of you are going to get this because I'm releasing it as soon as I possibly can, which is this evening on Monday, May 9th. I appreciate you joining me on this journey. In the meantime, you all have a good day, and I look forward to seeing you stay safe, guard your information, and provide the best security measures you possibly can